Hey guys, this is Mr. Neese. Now we're going to talk about U.S. History TEKS SE 2A. Now, 2A is a very short written TEK, but it takes a whole year of class to really get into it. So I intended for these videos to be a tutorial to kind of help you in a brief one. So I'm going to read this and then we're going to fly through this quickly. Okay. Identify the major eras in U.S. history from 1877 to the present and describe their defining characteristics. All right, so we break it down into 10 eras in U.S. history. And to go quickly, we're going to start with the first one. We're talking after the Civil War. That's the Gilded Age. And that is when we get into a world of industrialization. We're making, factories. We got electricity. Steel is being made better through the Bessemer process. People are leaving the rural areas and moving into urban areas. Urbanization is what that's called, moving into the cities, working in factories. The conditions aren't great. You're going to see people get incredibly rich at the expense of a lot of people who are working very long hours. We have child labor. We don't have workers' comp or a limited work hour week, so the conditions aren't great. So there's not a lot of regulation, and that means, in our case, and you'll hear this term a lot, laissez-faire. Laissez-faire means hands off, the government stays out, and that's kind of what this period is defined by. But there is a cause and effect to these kind of things, and that leads into our next period, which is the Progressive Era, where you will see an effort for reform, including things like the Pendleton Civil Service Act, which is an effort to fix the corruption that's in government and jobs just being handed out. The establishment of workers' rights. We see some union efforts by employees trying to band together to get rights. There's a lot of progressive efforts that are about progress, making things better, and that's going to lead us into our next period, which is emergence of a world power, where basically we're being imperialistic like the rest of the world. I say imperialistic, I mean we're going out there and getting control of other countries or areas and taking their resources and selling our goods to them. And this is happening all over the world. We're just another player in this. This is going to help facilitate a world war starting. And when you're thinking World War I, think Main, M-A-I-N, militarism, that's the military buildup of all these countries. Alliances is you're on my side and he's on his side, and somebody goes to fight with him. They're going to align with who their buddies are, and we're going to align with our buddies, and we're going to protect each other. If they go to war, if my buddy goes to war, I'm in with him, and that's what the alliances, that's what contributed to everybody getting into World War I. So we got militarism, we got alliances, we got imperialism, what I just explained. All these countries going out and grabbing land, grabbing weaker, less, countries or areas and taking advantage of them. And the last one is N, which is nationalism. Nationalism is, I'm proud of who I am and where I'm from, and my country is awesome and great, and yours isn't, and I can prove it. So the great sense of, pride in your own country. So that's the emergence of the world power area. So coming out of that, we go into the Roaring Twenties, and we have a period of growth and boom. Consumerism is a big thing. This is where we're buying things now, or we have electricity in our homes so we can get a toaster. Cars are becoming affordable, thank you to Henry Ford. So we're buying vehicles now. We're buying and consuming and buying on credit. That is a new thing, where you can buy something but not pay for it. You can pay it out. And it starts to happen in the stock market. People start buying stuff on margin where they don't have the full price of the stock, but they can buy it for a small piece of that. And then the stock market crashes, October 29th, 1929, and that'll lead us into our Great Depression, our next period, along with a drought here in this part of the world in what we call the Dust Bowl area and in the Midwest. And with drought conditions and poor farming techniques, we have this period of high unemployment, up to 25%. And the only thing that's going to get us out of that is a world war, which is the next period. So, World War II. Now, we're fighting Germany, we're fighting Japan. This is a world war. We're going to see a mass genocide of Jews during this period, and we're going to come out on top, just as we did in World War I. And that's going to establish us as a world power, a world player, a world decision maker. Okay, so that's some of the significances of those two periods. After that, though, there's a huge paranoia between us and the Soviet Union. So it's the West, which is us, the East, or in this case, the Soviet Union. They're communists, we're democratic. The communists believe in overthrowing governments and ruling of the people. It's a little more twisted and there's a lot of flavors, but communism is an affront to us, and we're not in favor of them trying to take over the world. And the Cold War is us fighting with them, but not always directly. A lot of times it's by proxy. It is us helping fund a nation to fight against it, and them helping to fight it. We didn't necessarily fight the Soviets directly, but a lot of indirect fights. So after Cold War, we get Civil Rights Movement. In the Civil Rights Movement, we see effort and growth to fix things that weren't fixed after the Civil War and create better equality for African Americans who were not being treated equally, and later Hispanics as well. And we also see it even within the rights of women's suffrage, which a lot of these areas there is no stop and start. Okay, they kind of flow into each other. As one goes down, the other one comes up. But we see a lot of these efforts on civil rights to help those and create a better who had not had the opportunities or were less advantaged, and give them a better rights, better equality, treat everybody the same. Now, 1970, 1990, we see a growth of conservatism. We see, we get into with China. Under Nixon, he goes to China. That opens up the door for relationships with them. And during this time also, we see, certain things that Environmental Protection Agency comes alive, Endangered Species Act, Clean Water Air Act. All these things start to come in as well. Some progressive things, but largely it gets a little more conservative. We see the oil crisis, and now we get to the 1990s and to the present. We get the Persian Gulf War, the Balkan War, we get the September 11th, we get the election of our first African American president, we get our first third-party president run that was very substantial. We've had a few third-party ones in the past, but this is one you might get a question on as well. We have our contested election in 2000 with Bush and Gore. So that is in our last era. So high speed, we take a whole year to go through all this, but for this video it's really about giving you a quick tutorial on this particular SE, so hopefully that helps.